Happy for you that you got some good news.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So much.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. And yeah, I mean that's been the scene. Vanessa makes the fifth family member that I've seen come out of this Holiday Inn Express here on Stansted Road. Just overjoyed and excited that after so many hours they have gotten the news that they've been hoping to get, that their loved one has been doing okay. Julia.
Karen, did she say what her partner experienced inside that FedEx facility? Do we know?
Well, she experienced a lot of terror. I did not get into too much specifics. Right now, of course, she was, joined by so many of us reporters here, but she's still sticking around. But it was just pure terror. She was scared. Being in an environment like that, something that she's never experienced before, just trying to get out alive and to reunite with her partner and other families. Julia.
Yeah. Karen, thank you. And Carlos, we heard her say she doesn't watch the news anymore because this is what we report on. It seems like week after week, wherever it is in the country, and it just happens to be in our backyard this time.
Yeah, and we don't want to report on these things. We don't want these things to be happening. But this is a situation that is heard about all too many times as far as, these shooting situations. I mean, when we were doing this, the show earlier this morning and talking about how this is the third mass shooting in Indianapolis, in the Indianapolis area, when you have 4 people killed over a stimulus check,
Right.
and then you have the 6 people killed that were earlier, and then of course on the national level in Atlanta you have 8 people killed, 10 people killed in Boulder, Colorado, and we're just in April right now. We've already had all these mass shootings in our country, so obviously a lot to kind of unpack as we go through our emotions this morning, and our live coverage of this morning's horrifying news continues this morning. Once again, 8 people killed at the FedEx facility on Maribel Road. That's the FedEx ground facility near the airport. We're waiting for more details on why this happened and who is actually behind it. The gunman did take his own life. We'll have much more. Stay with us right here on this special edition of 13 Sunrise.
How are you doing right now?
Not very well. No. Yeah, pretty anxious. Yeah. And I'm talked to multiple people coming in here. The first thing that they've asked me passing by, have you heard from your family member? So everyone's feeling the same thing right now, that some frustration level there, that we can't get a hold of anybody via phone.
What do you make of this? I mean, big picture, what do you make of this situation? I mean, I feel like you see it in other places on the news, but I mean, this has got to be pretty close to home.
I'm not going to take anything away from this happening anywhere else, but it just, it's, you see it, you hear it, you read about it, and the next day it's forgotten. Not forgotten, but it's just not really there. It's a little different. It's right here. I'm not going to forget this ever.
Wow.
That's just heartbreaking. That's a father, by the way, that was looking for his son who was working in that FedEx facility at the time. Unfortunately, we don't know yet if he's been connected with his son. If he's watching, maybe he'll reach out to us and let us know. You know, he's kind of echoed what we heard earlier, Carlos, that we see these mass shootings so many times. We know this will spark the debate over gun issues, a much larger debate. Right. But right now, here in Indianapolis, the way this is affecting us is we still have moms and dads, husbands and wives that are waiting to hear from their loved ones who were inside that facility when the shooting happened. Right,
and if you're just joining us, the reason they don't know is because there's a policy that happens with their cell phones. The FedEx employees that go into work there at the FedEx ground facility on Maribel Avenue, they cannot take their phones into work with them. They have to put them in lockers. They can't have them with them when they're working. That would cut down on productivity. So now when you have an active shooter situation, as we had last night at 11 o'clock at that FedEx facility, people running from the building are getting out of the building and not allowed to go back and get their cell phones. So they're not able to alert their loved ones if they're okay. They're not even able to find out what's going on. We had one person earlier today ask one of our reporters, did they get the shooter? And, you know, of course, we've been reporting all morning long the shooter took his own life, so it's no longer an active shooting situation. If you're just waking up with us, we're on top of this breaking news right now. And that breaking news, once again, Julia, 8 victims shot and killed overnight in the that FedEx ground facility at Maribel Road. Again, this is the ground facility on the southwest side, not the shipping center on the north side of I-70, which is basically on the grounds of the Indianapolis International Airport. Police tell us the gunman did take his own life. Of course, Indianapolis at the center of a national news coverage again this morning. Take a look at these headlines. You've been with us all morning long, and we see that about this mass shooting all across the country, Indianapolis, all over what's going on right now. You know, there are so many emotions when it hits close to home. Our prayers are with the families of those victims, and all of you are waking up to this horrifying news right now. We want to go to Jalea right now, who joins us in the studio this morning. And again, this all happened at the FedEx ground facility, and there are several facilities there, so we want to make sure we get the right one. People know about that.
Absolutely, and as you were clarifying before, we want to make sure that we drive that home because it can be a little bit confusing. We've gotten so many questions, people asking on our social media. You know, they hear FedEx facility, airport, and kind of are equating that with maybe the wrong FedEx facility. So we want to make sure that this map is clear for you. So this shooting happened at the FedEx ground facility right here on the map, and not the FedEx shipping center. And so that is what you're probably seeing from the interstate, what you probably think about if you're heading to the airport, where you probably see those FedEx planes parked from the interstate. Again, both of these are near the airport, as you can tell, but again, 2 different facilities. And so the one near the airport, this smaller facility, the ground facility, is where that shooting happened, again, on Maribel Road. That is south of I-70 in an industrial park just off of Ameriplex Parkway. And so as we've been sharing this morning, police have been telling us that it's still so early in their investigation, even though they've been on the scene for hours. But actually we just got this info less than an hour ago. Mayor Hogsett actually tweeted out this statement on Twitter about this shooting, saying that this morning Indianapolis residents are confronted with the horrific news of yet another mass shooting, an act of violence that senselessly claimed the lives of 8 of our neighbors. And as law enforcement works to learn more about this tragedy, our prayers are with the families of those whose lives were cut short. Another tweet, he goes on to say, thank you to all of our city's first responders for their tireless work overnight. Their quick response provided critical aid to those injured in that shooting and brought a measure of calm to an otherwise chaotic scene. We do have another statement that we want to share with you. This is what FedEx is saying this morning. This is a statement on their Twitter as well. They shared the quote, safety a top priority, and that their thoughts are with all of those who are affected. They say that we are working to gather more information and are cooperating with investigating authorities. We've got another statement to share with you. This one from Representative Andre Carson, saying that in part he's heartbroken and praying for all of those affected by this tragedy, also communicating with local authorities to get all of these details of the attack. And as you can imagine, these statements are trickling in this morning. We've shared that we've, been on air all morning long, but this happened at a time when a lot of people were heading to sleep. So a lot of people waking up to this horrible news, and police right now slowly releasing a lot of details as they're piecing together their investigation. So we've not heard a lot of public comment yet. Also, we talked about just on the national standpoint, just how many mass shootings that we've had, and we just haven't heard from President Biden or Vice President Harris, which unfortunately we do anticipate in the wake of a really heartbreaking tragedy that's right here in our backyard now, guys.
Yeah, certainly, Julia. You know, as she points out, Carlos, and we've talked about even some of the people we've interviewed here this morning, so many mass shootings that we've covered so far this year. And as you pointed out, we're here in April.
Yeah, it does feel like we're talking about this every week, Julia. A couple of notable shootings across the U.S. Like I mentioned before, March 16th in Atlanta, a string of shootings at massage businesses, killing 8 people there in the Atlanta area. Just a few days later, March 22nd in Colorado, Boulder, Colorado, 10 people died in a supermarket shooting there.
This has been a difficult time here, obviously in Indianapolis as well. Before even today's tragedy, in January, 6 people died in an East Side home. A 17-year-old is accused of killing his family after an argument with his father. And then in mid-March, 4 people were killed. Police say they were shot after an argument over a stimulus check. You can find more on all these shootings, where they stand as far as the investigation at WTHR.com. Plus, we do have the latest on the events, of course, at FedEx overnight, with that information all posted for you. As information comes in, we'll be covering it all day. We'll be right back.
Okay. Straight live.
Won't have enough time to play that start of that, so I'm gonna have it make some time. We'll go past 8, we can do it. I can't wait, but they're gonna need you in the next block. Hey Jen, if you can hear Scotty, how far away are we?
I get off of my first shift because I was about to work a double shift, and I start hearing 2 gunshots, and I think it's a car muffler going out. I start hearing 3 shots, and I start thinking that it's an engine problem. Then I start hearing 6 shots at once. Then I start hearing 10 shots at once. So I'm at a bench, and so I stand up and I take a look at the entrance door, and by the time I see the door, I see a man come out with a rifle in his hand, and he starts firing, and he starts yelling stuff that I could not understand. What I ended up doing was ducking down to make sure he did not see me, because I thought he would see me and he would shoot me. By the time 10 seconds went by, my friend's mother came in with her car, told us to get in, and we escaped. So what I ended up doing after that was warning all of my coworkers and everyone that was showing up to give them warnings of the incident that just occurred, and for them to go home and be with their families.
An amazing account right there from an eyewitness. That was Levi Miller, who works at that FedEx ground facility, Julia, and it's just unbelievable to hear what he had to say. And you know, the way he describes it, I mean, you could kind of see that he's still kind of in a state of shock, because he's describing it like he was watching a movie or something, not wanting to get hit by bullets, and he's so matter of fact about it.
I mean, imagine having to end your workday and go in and, tell your coworkers to run for their lives. That's essentially what he had to do. Emily Longnecker is actually as close as she can get to that facility, because it's an ongoing investigation. And Emily, I know there's been just some kind of, questions. We had not really been able to get a lot of information from police because of the ongoing investigation. Do we know if there are employees still inside that building right now because of the investigation?
No, they're not. They haven't been in the building for some time. Actually, from the early morning, they were able to evacuate them once the scene was secure. They evacuated them on buses, took them to a different facility where police were able to question them throughout the night. The way it was characterized to me, there is a lot of folks that work in that building, in that facility, and so they brought in buses to take folks away and get them to a secure location where they could just be comfortable, if you can characterize it as that, after going through something like this, but at least be in a warm spot, have something to drink, and be near a bathroom while they were processed everything and were able to talk to police. And we've panned over. This is an active crime scene. You asked earlier about why all of the cars in the parking lot, do those belong to people still inside the facility? No, the people are not inside the facility any longer, but those cars are there because they are part of an active crime scene. You can see the police tape there. So police are processing what they call a crime scene both outside and inside the facility. We know that the FBI is assisting. We know that IMPD homicide detectives are here. Forensics is here. The coroner's office, of course, will have the grim job of identifying the people, the 8 victims inside, and notifying their families. This is a long investigation. We've been told this is going to be a long investigation, and they are at the very beginning. And at this point, police are not saying really anything about the gunman. Take a listen.
That's something that we're still trying to figure out exactly how, why, what went on, and this is going to be an investigation that goes on throughout the day.
Now, what we know about the gunman came just from a witness that spoke with us last night, and he was just characterizing what it was like to be inside there and hear the gunshots, and then realize that they were gunshots. At first, he thought it was a firing, but then realizing that it was gunshots, and then looking up, actually, he said seeing a man coming through shooting and shouting, and he couldn't really understand. He told us what that man was saying over the gunfire. So that witness thankfully was able to get out safely. But the fact remains, I mean, these folks are about the business of the investigation, but this has been an emotionally gut-wrenching night for both the people inside that witnessed that and the loved ones who still are not sure about the status, the well-being of their families. And we're going to check in with Karen Kimball. She's over at the Family Reunification Center, where she has been talking to some family members who have been, so far at least, getting good news. Karen?
Hey, Emily. Yeah, about a handful of families that we've seen come out of this Holiday Inn again on Stansted Road, they have gotten the good news that their loved ones are doing okay. I mean, we just spoke with a woman, Vanessa Waters, who says that her partner worked in the FedEx Express unit of the facility, and she said that Express is what she's been told was not impacted. They were nowhere near where the shooter was, but she said it was just basically her partner was full of terror. She was scared because of the shooting happening around her, even though it wasn't in the specific area that she was in. Just being in that environment was just emotionally upsetting for a lot of people. And I mentioned we saw many families leave here probably about 20 minutes ago or so. One woman had her hands up to the sky, praising God that her family member is okay, but there are still other members, family still inside this Holiday Inn Express who are still waiting for answers. The woman I mentioned earlier, around 5-6 o'clock this morning, she had last talked to her daughter after 11:02. She said she called her on the cell phone trying to get an Uber or a Lyft home, and she hasn't heard from her since. So I met with her twice in there. She's still inside, hasn't heard anything. She doesn't know if she's alive or dead or in a hospital. So just imagine the emotions running through her. And we also spoke with another woman who you'll hear momentarily. Her father worked at FedEx. Listen to what she had to say.
It's not something I expected. Having to receive a call from my dad, it's overwhelming. That's just really all I can say. I didn't think I would have to be in a situation like this, where my dad is just going to work and then he could have been in danger. His car got hit. It could have been in one of the victims. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot for these families going forward. Those who have been reunited, with their family members, those who have lost their loved ones. So it's definitely going to be a long, emotional road from here on out.
Karen, thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for reporting all morning long, bringing us all the information that we need from that Holiday Inn, where they're, of course, asking people to go to be reunited with their loved ones this morning. And Julia, just to put things in perspective, we talk about this being a national story. It's now an international story. I'm looking online. I see the BBC in England has now reported on this story, and you can just see those images right there, just so emotional when you can see loved ones, just so happy to be reuniting with each other, and then other people consoling people who have lost people. This is all from that Holiday Inn pictures that we have that are coming in, and you can just see the emotion, Julia, on so many people's faces.
Yeah, just waiting for answers. And, we started reporting on this just after 11 o'clock last night. Imagine being some of those families still in there in the Holiday Inn. As the hours tick by, you just have to start fearing the worst for your loved one if you've gone this long and haven't heard from them. That's why we're here and, been with you a little bit extra this morning just so we can give you the very latest so that you have the facts. We know IMPD is being assisted by the FBI in this still very active investigation, Carlos.
Yeah, you can see that from FedEx ground facility at the bottom left-hand portion of your screen. That is where the shooting took place at 11 o'clock last night. Once again, 8 people shot and killed. The gunman, according to police, took his own life. There were 5 people who were injured and taken to local hospitals in the area. 2 people were treated at the scene, and a lot of confusion going on earlier this morning because workers there at the FedEx facility were not allowed to have their cell phones on them when they were working. So, of course, they were without those cell phones. For Julia Moffat, I'm Carlos Diaz. We're going to join the Today Show right now, also reporting on this. Thank you for joining us on this special edition of 13 Sunrise.